Welcome. Today we're talking about a story that's deeply disturbing. It's not just the violence, but how someone twisted a moment of global fear, the very start of the COVID-19 pandemic, to try and get away with murder.
Exactly. We're looking at Jupiter, Florida, March 2020. Everyone's terrified, locking down. The news is just constant COVID.
And right in the middle of that chaos, Gretchen Antone, who is 51, she just disappears. Poof.
And the story that immediately goes out to her friends, her family, it's precisely what everyone was dreading back then. You know, high fever, really low oxygen, a bad case of COVID.
Yeah, and the texts supposedly from her were very specific, claiming she was being treated, quarantined at some CDC facility way outside town. But here's the thing, that facility, it didn't even exist.
It was pure invention, designed to stop people looking too closely, right? Who would risk going near a supposed severe COVID patient in March 2020?
Nobody. It was, frankly, a horribly clever cover. So today we're going to peel back that cover story, look at the evidence, the psychology, and really uncover what happened. This wasn't about a virus. This was murder.
Let's start with the people involved. Gretchen Antone, 51, described as really organized, focused on her health, a dedicated mom to her daughter Eva, who was 12 at the time.
And then there's David Antone, her estranged husband. He was 38, very tall, 6'7", I think. Former basketball player, working as a fitness trainer. On the surface, maybe seemed okay.
But underneath, not okay at all. Our sources highlight a really critical piece of history, a traumatic brain injury, a TBI, from an accident back in 2017.
And that TBI wasn't minor. It triggered major psychological issues. We're talking severe mood swings, deep depression, even a bipolar disorder diagnosis.
Crucially, he seems to have refused consistent psychological help, which, just made everything worse. The volatility increased.
And this volatility fed into some pretty strange beliefs. He apparently became obsessed with the idea of Armageddon, the end of the world.
Yeah, and had these plans, apparently quite detailed, to escape it all by fleeing to Costa Rica. It sounds like delusion was really taking hold.
The marriage itself was clearly breaking down fast around this time. Late 2019, early 2020, Gretchen decided she wanted out.
And the pressure points just kept coming. February 24th, 2020, David gets fired from his job, apparently due to aggressive behavior, especially towards women.
Then, just 4 days later, February 28th, Gretchen files for divorce. So you can see his world just crumbling from his perspective.
And it seems like his response, fueled by his delusions, was to latch onto this violent escape plan.
The first real red flag for outsiders wasn't Gretchen being missing, but those texts supposedly from her ex-husband, Jeffrey, Eva's father, he picked up on it first.
Right, he was co-parenting Eva with Gretchen, so they communicated regularly. When he got these texts about her being sick, hospitalized, quarantined, something felt off.
What specifically tipped him off?
Well, one text mentioned the MERS virus. MERS, which is, another coronavirus, but totally unrelated to COVID-19. It was an older outbreak.
So like a detail someone trying to sound medically knowledgeable might throw in, but incorrectly.
Exactly. It suggests someone crafting a story, but getting the details wrong. Like they did a quick search for bad viruses or something.
But even more than that specific error, Jeffrey knew Gretchen's writing style.
Yeah, he said the grammar, the spacing, just the whole feel of the messages was wrong. It wasn't Gretchen.
And the biggest thing, no attempt to contact Eva, her 12-year-old daughter. That was completely out of character. Unthinkable, really.
That gut feeling was strong enough that Jeffrey decided he had to check things out himself. He actually drove to the hospital Gretchen supposedly was admitted to. No record of her. Nothing since she'd given birth to Eva back in 2008.
Wow. But then he found something physical, right? Something that really confirmed his fears.
He did. He found Gretchen's car, her blue Mini Cooper, parked there in the hospital lot. But inside, untouched, was her wallet.
Like it was staged. Left there to make it look like she'd arrived and been rushed inside, maybe?
Precisely. But leaving the wallet, it didn't make sense. That's when Jeffrey called the police.
So the police go to the Antone house on March 25th. And what they find there paints a pretty grim picture immediately.
Before the police even got inside, a neighbor provided a chilling piece of the timeline. Early morning, March 21st, the day Gretchen supposedly went to the hospital, this neighbor heard a woman screaming.
Screaming what?
Shouting, "No, I'm hurting," over and over for about 15 minutes straight, coming from the Antone house.
15 minutes? That's a long time for that kind of screaming. And then later that same morning,
the same neighbor smelled bleach. A really strong, overpowering smell of bleach coming from the garage.
So when the police arrived days later, that smell's probably gone?
No, actually, they confirmed it. An overwhelming smell of bleach, especially strong in the garage. They could even see residue on the floor. A clear attempt to clean up.
What else did they find inside?
In the master bedroom, shattered glass on the bed. And in the washing machine, they found towels, bloody towels, stuffed in there, mid-cycle.
So, the screaming neighbor heard, the bleach smell, the bloody towels. It all points to a violent struggle and a panicked, messy cleanup attempt.
Absolutely. And there was one more thing missing. The backyard CCTV camera. The one covering the area around the garage.
Missing how?
Ripped out. Physically torn down. A deliberate effort to destroy visual evidence.
But you mentioned the system had some kind of backup.
Fortunately, yes. It used a QR code system for data retrieval. So even though the physical camera was gone, the footage wasn't necessarily lost forever. It would just take time to recover it.
Okay, let's connect this back to David. His behavior leading up to this. It wasn't stable, was it?
Not at all. Sources mentioned an incident just a couple of weeks before, March 7th. He apparently flew into a rage at a painting class because his date wasn't following his instructions precisely.
That sounds like the impulsivity and anger issues linked to the TBI you mentioned.
It fits the pattern. And it got worse. Just a week before Gretchen disappeared, March 14th, he harassed her at her home for hours.
Police got involved then.
They did, later that evening.
Yeah.
He was apparently found trying to coerce Eva, the daughter. Police stopped his truck, and that's when they found a large Bowie knife hidden inside the door panel.
A Bowie knife. He was arrested.
Arrested for resisting arrest, yeah. But he was released pretty quickly. And just 7 days after that incident, both he and Gretchen were gone.
So police have a prime suspect, a crime scene suggesting violence and cleanup. They need to find David.
And they start tracking the phones. Both Gretchen's and David's phones initially travel south together from Florida.
Together.
But then Gretchen's phone pings somewhere else, about 600 miles away, at a pawn shop.
A pawn shop.
Yeah. Police later got surveillance video. It was David
Oh.
pawning Gretchen's belongings.
What was his story this time?
He told the pawnbroker his aunt had died. Of COVID, naturally. And he needed money to get out of town. Just leveraging the pandemic fear again.
Unbelievable. And his own phone. Where did that end up?
His phone kept going all the way across the country. Over 2,000 miles. They tracked him to Las Cruces, New Mexico.
And they arrested him there.
Yes, on March 28th. And that's when another detail emerged. David Anthony wasn't even his real name.
An alias.
His real last name was Duis. He changed it apparently due to some prior criminal history.
Okay, so they arrest David Duis, a.k.a. David Anthony, in New Mexico. What's in his truck?
The final pieces. They found the missing CCTV camera from the backyard. They found 2 Amazon Echo devices, those smart speakers.
The Alexa devices. Interesting.
And crucially, they found Gretchen's actual cell phone hidden away in the truck bed.
So the phone wasn't really at the pawn shop, he just used it there and took it back.
Seems like it. Despite all this evidence, the camera, the phone, David stuck to his story. He claimed they just separated somewhere in Texas.
But the truth was sitting right there in that damaged CCTV camera.
Exactly. By March 30th, police technicians managed to recover the data from it. And it showed everything that happened at 6:00 a.m. on March 21st.
What did it show?
It showed David hiding behind the garage door waiting. Gretchen opens the door from the house into the garage. She sees him.
Her reaction?
You hear her voice, clearly scared, asking, "What are you doing?" And then in that terrifying moment, she does something incredibly quick-witted. She tries to use the technology in the house.
The Alexa.
Yes. You hear her shout a voice command, "Alexa, turn on the garage light." Maybe hoping to startle him, attract attention, maybe just document it.
And
then just seconds later, right before the audio cuts out as he rips the camera down, she screams one last command. "Alexa, call 911.
Oh my God. Did it work?
Tragically, no. The sources state the Alexa device hadn't been configured for emergency calling, so her final desperate plea, it just went nowhere.
And the video itself, did it capture the attack?
Just as the camera's being torn down, the angle shifts,
Yeah.
and you get a glimpse of Gretchen. Her head appears drenched in blood. It confirms the violence the neighbor heard.
So David's arrested. The footage tells the story. He's charged.
Second-degree murder and kidnapping. But there's still one problem. No body. Which makes a murder conviction much harder.
They needed a confession. They needed him to tell them where Gretchen was.
So the police and Jeffrey, Gretchen's ex-husband, they came up with a plan. A really tough, emotional one. They recorded Eva.
Her daughter. What did she say?
It's heartbreaking. You hear this little girl's voice crying, saying, David, this is Eva. I love you. I'm scared. I miss Mommy so much. I need to know where she is. Please do the right thing and tell me where Mommy is. Please, David, I love you.
Wow. Did they play that for him?
Yes. That recording, combined with the absolute proof from the camera footage, it finally broke him.
He confessed?
He did. He accepted a plea deal. 38 years in prison, avoiding a potential life sentence. And he told them where he buried her.
Where?
About 3 miles from the house, near a retirement community. He initially claimed he'd strangled her with a blanket.
But that wasn't the whole truth either, was it?
No. The autopsy told a different story. Gretchen hadn't been strangled. The cause of death was multiple stab wounds to her neck and torso, consistent with that Bowie knife found earlier.
So even in his confession, he was still manipulating the narrative. And at his sentencing, any remorse?
According to reports from the sentencing hearing in December 2020, no remorse shown for the act of murder itself. Instead, he apparently continued to talk about his belief that COVID was Armageddon, still lost in that delusion.
It really brings it home. The pandemic wasn't the cause, but it provided the perfect storm, the cover story for the texts, the excuse for needing money at the pawn shop, the backdrop for his Armageddon escape fantasy.
Absolutely. The root cause seems clearly tied to his untreated mental health issues, the TBI, the bipolar disorder, the escalating delusions. The pandemic just became the stage on which he played out his final violent act.
It really makes you think about that intersection of personal crisis and this kind of, collective panic. Did the global situation somehow validate his delusions in his own mind?
It's impossible to know for sure, but it seems plausible. If you already believe the world is ending, and then suddenly the world looks like it's ending, it could certainly reinforce those extreme beliefs and actions.
And that detail about the Alexa, Gretchen's quick thinking, trying to use technology to save herself, but it failing because of a setup issue, that's haunting.
It really is. A stark reminder, perhaps, about vulnerability. Even with all our modern tools, the danger often comes from much closer to home, especially when mental health goes unaddressed.
A truly tragic case, exploiting a moment when everyone was already afraid. Thank you for joining us as we explored this story. We hope unpacking cases like this brings some small measure of understanding.
Indeed. It's important to remember the human stories behind the headlines.
If you found this exploration valuable, please support our channel, Horror Doc. You can do that by hitting like, sharing this with others who might be interested, and subscribing for more content. We appreciate you listening. Until next time, stay safe.